Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
You know what to say about a high stepper? No step too high for a high stepper.
For our country and for our children, the best is yet to come.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Super excited about today's episode. This is the Grand Ole Podcast, and we're in Mobile, Alabama with our famous Senator, Jeff Sessions. Thank you, sir, for being on our show.
Oh, thank you, Scott. I'm proud of you. Chairman of the party is an important thing, especially when the party has dominance in the legislature and in the U.S. Congress and all the government, constitutional officers, the governor, and so forth. So you have great future. We can do a lot of good things.
Yes, sir. That's the plan for sure, right?
I can remember when we only had two in the whole Alabama legislature.
Oh, my goodness.
And so trying to get things done was not easy from a conservative point of view, but gradually that's changed. It's sort of amazing to me, I can tell you.
Oh, absolutely. They probably believed in the filibuster a little bit at that time.
They didn't have enough to filibuster, really. But we had some good people, and we began to add good people. And the goal was to move the state in a more conservative, traditional, business-like manner. And I think that's happened. And the state's a lot better for the change.
Absolutely. Well, we've got one more seat to take back, too, in CD2.
Yeah,
so hopefully we can accomplish
Need to win
that.
this seat. This is important. And it's important nationally.
Oh, absolutely.
People don't know how important a majority is. Every committee is chaired by the majority party. Mm-hmm. They'll have a majority on every single committee, and they can move legislation out. If you have a majority of the other party, they can block legislation or pass their agenda. And so I hope our people will turn out in record numbers on this election.
Absolutely. Maybe you can help us with that down here in Mobile.
Whatever I could do, I'd be glad to.
So the purpose of the podcast is kind of getting to know you as a person. So I'd love to just start off where you grew up.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Camden. Actually, I didn't grow up in Camden. I grew up in Hibbert, which is 15 miles south of Camden in a crossroads community. Daddy had a country store till I was about 11. I had a pot-bellied wood stove for heat. At a grist mill, he actually ground people's corn.
Oh, wow.
But he could see the country store was doomed, and he bought an international dealership in Camden, but the little farm equipment dealerships were shrinking too.
Yeah.
But he managed to get out of there with his shirt and retire with enough to get by on. And so we grew up frugal and working with real people every day. I remember working in his shop and farmers coming in July, hot, and things breaking on their tractors and hay in the field and all of those things. But people worked their tails off in the country. And the values that we grew up with are good values. Mm-hmm. And I used to say in my first campaign, I want to reflect the highest and best values of Alabama. That's what I tried to do throughout my career. And it was an honor to serve, and it's amazing to go from no politicians, no people of prominence in my family, and next thing you know, I'm in Attorney General of Alabama, the U.S. Senator, and U.S. Attorney General.
That's right.
How can I complain? What an adventure
at 100%.
That has been.
Well, I think the Lord definitely blessed you in the roles that you're in, but rightfully so. I mean, the work that you've done. All right, so you grew up in Camden area, then you decided to go which college?
Huntington College. I almost went to Alabama, and but at the last minute I went to Huntington, which is a religious faith-based school, and it was the right thing for me. So I meet my wife Mary there. We were in the same class, and it was the right place for me. It enriched me, and then law school at Alabama. Very great experience. I can't complain about any of it.
So
to
that was
stay
that-
active with the Republicans.
There you go. And that was back when it wasn't cool to be Republican either.
No, it wasn't much. I was state chairman of the college Republicans, state chairman of the young Republicans after law school. And so I always made my bed there. That's what I believed. The country was liberal, getting more liberal every year. In those times, you had the Great Society, and then you started having drugs and crime, and the 60s. And William Buckley, the editor of National Review, I guess the most prominent conservative thinker, said something, I think it's still true today, Scott. The Republican Party is the single institution capable of preserving this republic. You just can't go out and create a little party, a little group of people that are going. So we got two parties. We need to make sure our party is sound, healthy, and strong, and reflects our basic values. And there'll have to be some give and take within the party. You know that in the Alabama
100%.
legislature.
Yes, sir.
And you can't get everything you want, but you create a strength and a core of effectiveness that preserves and protects this great heritage we've been given, and expands it to meet the new challenges.
Absolutely. So going back, meeting your wife in college, how did y'all meet?
Well, it was a small group. We had 300, I think, in our freshman class, but we ate in the dorms, and so it was a group of us that started meeting and having lunch together or dinner together most nights. We didn't have money to go outside the free meal at the dining hall, so we were together all the time, and just grew to be friends, and then
And then
got
more
married
than
right
friends.
after graduation.
Awesome. So you went to law school, y'all were married while you were at law
Yes,
school?
she taught me through law school. She got an education degree.
Awesome. What did she teach in?
She taught in Pickens County
Okay.
at Reform, and then in Tuscaloosa Elementary School.
Well,
So
you
that
talking
was
about a
enough to get us
servant, teaching is it's a service. I mean, you're serving the kids and the future of our state, and it's a very serious job. I don't think people really understand how serious it is.
It's serious and it's hard. And people think they know so much. Put them in a classroom for a year. I mean, well, the kids aren't encouraged to study if they stay up all hours of the night, sleep through class, and then the teacher's expected to, transform them or something when they're getting none of that at home. And it's just hard. And discipline is harder today. Parents are less supportive of teachers today.
100%.
And so I've never been a critic of the teachers. I think the process and administrative burdens that are placed on education could be improved. And I'm proud of the legislature's choice bill. This is going to provide, this is a statement that, no, we're not bound by this. We're the people who run the state of Alabama.
That's right.
And we're not happy with the way it's happening. No matter who you want to blame about it, it's just not working as good as it should. And we're going to give parents choice. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Very Republican thing.
It is indeed. And and the legislation that was passed is historic, as you know. Many thought it would never happen. The powerful forces against it. But I'm proud of the Republican legislature for getting that done.
Well, it was an honor to cast my vote for that legislation. I'll tell you that, Senator. All right, let's say you graduate law school, and then where does the young senator go from there?
So I ended up going to a law firm in Russellville, Franklin County, northwest Alabama.
Know that very well.
And with a good little firm, Judge Ford Ewan had just become a federal judge. It was a 3-person firm, and they took me in. And then I had an opportunity to become Assistant United States Attorney in Mobile, federal prosecutor. And I really wanted to do that. So we just up and left and came to Mobile. And that's been home since 1975.
Wow. Was there like a specific law that really intrigued you when you were young?
I was a pretty natural prosecutor. We had a surging crime rate. Jails hadn't been increased at all. Police departments hadn't been increased, but crime was increasing.
Yeah.
And so Reagan got, I came in 75. Nixon was strong on crime. And then Carter got elected. Reagan came in saying, we're going to bring order and reduce crime and make your communities safe again. That was a much bigger part of his campaign than a lot of people think. And so I had been an assistant United States attorney under President Nixon and Ford. Then Carter was elected. I went into private practice. And then Reagan was elected, and he appointed me U.S. attorney.
Wow.
And I ended up doing that 12 years, which is a long. Most people serve less than 4. And that was a great job. We assembled a terrific staff and had a lot of great cases, big drug cases here on the Gulf Coast. And
Oh, I bet. You know, I remember I was a kid, and I literally remember his battles with drugs.
Yeah.
I remember the commercials on TV as a kid. I mean, that was a long time ago.
they tried to say that Nancy Reagan's Just Say No was a failure. Not so. From 1980, according to 1981, the University of Michigan study found that half of high school seniors in 1980 admitted using an illegal drug that year.
Wow.
That dropped by half by the mid-90s. So it ceased to be acceptable. I had people I was going to hire for an assistant U.S. attorney here in Mobile and would ask them about drug use. And 2 of them told me, things changed. When I first got to school, there were drugs. By the time I left, good people got out of there if somebody lit up marijuana or started using drugs. They would just leave. So it became, the tide turned. And imagine how many fewer young people had their lives destroyed by this substantial reduction in the popularity of drug use, acceptance of it.
You know, it's almost like in the 30s and 40s, they used to say smoking was good for you. They encouraged women who were pregnant to smoke. You know, if you had a cold or some kind of incongestion, they'd say, well, get some cigarettes, that'll clear you up. And it's almost that same mindset that you're talking about now. Yeah,
it's, it's hard to, people want to do things, it's hard to stop it, but you don't need to culturally bless it and say it's a good thing and it's perfectly normal when we know for a fact that it's unhealthy. And a lot of young people have dropped out of, ceased being good students and with good ambitions and have destroyed their future.
Absolutely.
As a result of drug use.
Absolutely. So, okay, so you're down here in Mobile. What sparked that little flame to make you want to run for office?
Well, we had a great staff. We assembled and the staff grew in the U.S. Attorney's Office. And we prosecuted a number of big public corruption cases, as well as big drug cases. At some point, it's kind of a famous story, I got a call from about 7 or 8 state legislators in Birmingham that says, we want you to run for Attorney General of Alabama. I've been U.S. Attorney for 12 years. Clinton had just gotten elected, so I resigned and went into private practice. And I just finally decided I wanted to do it, you know?
Yeah,
I've been active in the Republican Party for these years. I knew I'd been a prosecutor for 14 years, and I thought I knew what to do if I were Attorney General of Alabama.
So what was Mrs. Sessions' opinion of running for statewide office?
What she says, that I didn't really discuss it with her. That is, surely that's not so. But surely Mary is never wrong. So
that's right.
But we discussed it, and I had a son in high school and 2 daughters in college or starting college, and so it was not horrible time to run, and we kept our home here, and I would go up Monday morning and come back Friday afternoon.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask next is, it's a big state.
It's a big state. It's a big state. But I enjoyed being Attorney General, but shortly after I got elected Attorney General by a big margin, I mean, I was behind by 7, I'll never forget this, forgive me. Like, according to the Birmingham News, 14 points in September. The election's in November. Mm-hmm. And, but I could feel things were getting better. So I ended up winning by 17. Wow. Just boom. And Governor James won by about 7,000 votes, something 10,000, 15. Anyway, it was a small percentage or two. And so we changed a lot of things in Montgomery of historic importance, particularly with regard to the courts. Mm-hmm. We got a bad Supreme Court, I'm telling you. I'm just going to say it. It was a bad Supreme Court. They were doing things that were not correct. And Judge Bill Pryor, I hired him, he was hardly 30, and he and some other good people, and we started winning these cases, and we rejected the positions of the previous Attorney General, Jimmy Evans, and we won some big cases. So anyway, within months of my being elected, Howell Heflin announced his retirement. So I had to decide pretty soon.
Now, were people asking you, or was it something that you saw and you just felt like that's something I wanted to do? How kind of that went about? Because that's a big decision. Especially, like, you're Attorney General of the state of Alabama. That's a big decision.
Yeah. Well, of course, I had kept up with politics all these years. I knew a lot about it, frankly. And so I was able to make a decision, I think, rationally. My chief deputy said, he'd been in Washington. He said, you need to run for the Senate. I said, Richard Allen, great deputy attorney general. He said, I just got elected. I don't see how I can do this. He said, you need to do it. And I said, well, I just got here. We got to run this office. We'll help you run this office, but you need to run. And it was...
The rest is history.
So I decided to do it, and things went well. That was 94, 96, when Republicans were on up.
We're starting to climb. That was right before the 2010 sweep, but we were getting there. That's, yeah. You know, we're talking about revolution 250 years ago. Well, Republicans had a revolution 16 years ago.
Well, yeah, but before that was the big one was Newt Gingrich, and took over the House. That's right. In 94. And that's when I ran for AG, and it impacted the race in Alabama, the Republican rise, the sweep of 94, and then 96 was strong too. Republicans, the Democrats had continued to this leftward tilt that's now just kind of, any semblance of order in it seems to have fallen apart. Mm-hmm. And it's just groups of radical ideologues that are winning these elections but for the Democrats in some of the big cities, and it's a direct threat to the historical values of the United States of America. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It has to be defeated.
100%. Just like, think about Bill Clinton. One of his top priorities was illegal immigration and closing the borders. Boy, have we turned the page since then, right?
Yeah. So I'm real proud of President Trump. He has done what he said he was going to do. I don't begrudge supporting him 1 minute. First, nobody else would have gotten elected. I'm confident of that. He was the only Republican that could win, and he has made monumental progress on immigration. Mm-hmm. I would not have imagined 10 years ago we could have made this much progress. And he has stood up for American manufacturing, and he's not let these free trade ideologues, these religious free traders, when people are cheating you, you've got to push back. Mm-hmm. And tariffs are better than bombs.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got to defend your legitimate interest. So he does not believe in anybody taking advantage of us.
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's going to defend our interest. Well, that was a lot of establishment Republicans were on the wrong side of that. And on immigration. A lot of them think, oh, we like these cheap workers, you know. But we've now, I think, reached a national consensus under his leadership that we've got to bring this to an end. And the social issues like men and women's sports. This transgender extremism is beyond all reality. And
Absolutely is.
They just stuck with it.
You know, I passed that legislation in Alabama in 21, and the Biden administration literally threatened the state of Alabama with our free lunches in our schools with Governor Ivey. And it made me nervous because at that time I was a freshman legislator. I didn't know, Ivey didn't check up. You know, she signed it in law with a smile.
Yeah. Well, so your legislation banned biological males.
Yes, sir.
And that's yeah. So that was an important piece of legislation, and I always felt, and it's taken longer than I thought, but I always felt this was so irrational that it would collapse. But it took longer to collapse.
Absolutely.
But it is collapsing.
It is, 100%. And I think over the left, they are starting to realize that those social issues are not going to move the needle forward for them. So now they're scrambling and they don't know what to do, which we've been on the same side the whole time. Right. You know, we're going to stand for family values and what's right, and we're going to stand against wrong.
You know, as Attorney General, the issue came up. I said, "What? Title IX created a separate athletic assistant for women, and they never imagined that they were saying you could declare yourself a woman and play women's sports." And it's not part of the original intent of the legislation. And we have people in the Department of Justice that have been defending it in court. So we had to reverse that. Just horrible.
It is. So, all right, so we get elected United States Senator. Tell me about your first time in the chamber. What was that feeling?
I don't know. You know, they had this thing about your maiden speech, your first speech, and it's supposed to be. So we were fighting over trial lawyers, which we've been fighting over in Alabama for quite a long time. And I was against the excesses on the litigation that Alabama was called tort hell. We had one of the worst reputations in the country. It was hurting business. Anyway, so I knew a lot about it and was a lawyer. And so we were in a big debate one night. Next thing I know, I'm down there pitching away. And so I don't really feel like, I don't know, it was felt pretty comfortable for me to just, being U.S. attorney, you're part of the U.S. government. So you know how it works more than if you'd come off a business background or something. That was comfortable, knowing how the system operated and had observed it pretty carefully for many years.
So you were just a seasoned athlete. You jumped on the field and you were ready to roll.
We had some fun. But I think it's important. I tried to be faithful to the people who elected me. And I began to understand that even the Republican establishment, which was so much better than the leftist Democrats, were not understanding the frustrations and the everyday problems of working Americans. And they were all for free trade and against tariffs. Many of them were secretly supportive of more immigration. And they were too tied to political contributions. So I began to push back on that. And so people say, kind of correctly, you were advancing the Trump agenda before Trump. And I was. I said, we got to have immigration. We got to defend our manufacturing. I began to believe we were in too many wars, and it cost too much, that we weren't effective enough on environmental problems and excesses of the environmental movement. So all of that, so I began to push back against the establishment. McConnell and I disagreed on a lot of things. And so when Trump ran, time went by, I felt like he could win. My friend Ted Cruz, I don't think he could have won. I'm confident he couldn't. And Trump was echoing the things I'd been saying, almost every one of them.
Wow.
So that's how I came to endorse him. And I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted him to win. And then we got the courts. Ooh, if we'd lost that election, we would never be having the rulings we're getting today.
Absolutely. Especially one that we've received recently that was so beneficial to women's athletics.
Exactly. And then there's been a series of victories on religious freedom. When he ran the first time, there was a growing concern that the Obama administration and the left wing of the Democratic Party was openly hostile to expressions of religious faith.
Yep, I remember that like it was yesterday, actually. So, all right, so from U.S. Senate, then all of a sudden now you are the United States Attorney General. What about that? Was that
something.
kind of, I got to pinch myself?
Yeah, well, yes. But I'd been in the Department of Justice for 14 years. Then I was 20 years in the U.S. Senate on the Judiciary Committee with oversight over the Department of Justice. And I knew those guys. I knew what was at stake. But the issues were, many of them were fundamentally the same issues that I knew about, like crime, civil rights, which I strongly believe in civil rights for everybody, but a lot of things gone to excess, and it was hard to push back on that, but I understood that real well. So we understood all the basic issues. Homicides in the last 2 years of the Obama administration went up 12% and then 8% after basically 20 years of decline, starting with Reagan, more than 20, 30 years of decline. And this was a direct result of bad leadership and policy, and telling states and counties and cities, you don't have to lock people up. We got too many people in jail.
Yeah.
You got too many police. You can cut their budgets. Then that devolved into abolishing police departments entirely, and those extreme anti-order policies that are disorderly and place decent people at risk of their lives and fortunes. So we were able to reverse all that.
Well, it definitely needed reversing. So let's say, all right, so after D.C., you come back to Mobile, and that's where you are now.
Yeah.
And let's talk about life now for Senator Jeff Sessions.
Well, I've done really well. Every now and then I get mad.
Understandable.
And if I was in the Senate, I'd go down and make a complaint or make a speech. But we got 10 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
We
So
got,
what's your granddad name?
Gan.
Okay, Gan. That's awesome. How'd they come about?
I don't know. My wife liked it, she picked it up. Anyway, so that's the way I'm known. And the oldest one just started college. And so it's fun to be with them, but they're scattered about. And we've got a farm up in Camden and some property in Choctaw, where my mom was from. So that takes some effort. And then I'm involved in some church and other projects, a number of other projects.
They'll keep you busy in church.
Well, they do. It means a lot to me. It always has.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for taking the time and opening your house to us.
Good, Scott. Well, you got any challenge to me, to thinking back when we almost had nobody in the legislature? Burt Nettles and Doug Hale from Huntsville, Burt Nettles from Mobile, and only two, to a point where you have a supermajority. Mm-hmm. And I know there's special interests out there that influenced a lot of our Republican legislators and every other legislature. But the party needs to get together, work in sync, make necessary compromises, agree on a positive agenda that will make this state better, and do it.
Yes, sir.
And people will respect it.
Yes, sir.
And I think I'm real excited that you're in the position you are, having had that experience.
Well, I am as well. You know, my stump speech was there's a huge disconnect between the legislature and the party, and I'm going to bridge that gap.
That is right. And I'll tell you, I'm excited about Tommy Tuberville. He's strong. And I think if you work together, he's not that familiar with the legislature, I'm sure. But if you work with the governor, the constitutional officers, and the legislature, and develop an agenda and do it like you did the education choice bill, there's no limit how much better we can make this state.
I agree. Well, I can promise you this, Senator, we're already on it. We are already on it.
Good.
Thank you, sir, and that's a wrap.